I'm Mark Warwick, Business Development for Multi-Site Retail for Distech Controls, and I'll be the host of this roundtable. Before the pandemic, we were seeing the supermarket industry adapt, innovate, and transform. The pandemic has actually accelerated everything, and that's what we'll be talking about today. In today's roundtable, I am virtually surrounded by some industry experts. I have Allan Samuels from CoolSys Engineering, Glenn Barrett from DC Engineering, and Jen Jules Bowlin from Henderson Engineering. So we'll start with Allan. You want to, like most of the people in the supermarket world know you guys, but start with a little background,
Allan. I should have prepared a speech for that. Okay, so I have been in this industry. I'm obviously from South Africa originally, hence the strange accent. And I have been in this country for about 40 years. I started with my brother, Clive Samuels, and we started Clive Samuels and Associates. We sold the company some time back, I think about 15, 16 years ago, to Emerson. I worked for Emerson for a while. And then I started a new company called Energy Squared. And within the last 3 years, Energy Squared was sold to CoolSys. And right now I am the president of CoolSys Energy Design. So I've been doing this for more fingers than I can count.
Thanks, Allan. Jen, you want to give us a little background of you?
Sure. So I am a principal and a lead program manager at Henderson Engineers in the Kansas City area. I have degrees in mechanical engineering from TCU and a master's at Purdue University. I was Henderson's first refrigeration hire back in 2007, and I have spent my entire 16-year plus career working on the refrigeration, grocery, and cold storage industries. I've worked closely with a variety of clients over the years, including 4 of the largest 8 retailers and 3 of the top 7 grocers in the country. And my project experience ranges, from smaller grocery store remodels of a few thousand square feet to large warehouse projects of up to 1.2 million square feet.
Thanks, Jen. Now, Mr. Glenn, how about your background?
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. My name is Glenn Barrett. I'm a senior associate partner at DC Engineering, and I work as a service in the engineering services and technical engineering division. I'm the engineering manager for that. I've been doing refrigeration for over 25 years. I know that sounds like a long time. I performed a number of different job functions while doing that, from a project engineer, doing refrigeration designs, to director of energy and energy management and engineering for a large grocer, business development, controls, energy procurement, and even some electricity and natural gas procurement. So a fairly broad scope of actions and responsibilities. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thanks for being here. So the first topic, we're going to go to Allan. Allan, due to the pandemic, one of the first things that retailers were looking at was indoor air quality. And I know you guys just did a webinar. Could you sort of summarize some of your findings and your recommendations?
Yeah, sure, Mark. So, it's interesting because a few months ago, we all sort of thought that the pandemic was behind us. And I think we're all taking another look at that and seeing this resurgence of the pandemic. And so the things that we were putting in our rearview mirror have resurfaced. So some of the methodology we're using is firstly to bring in as much fresh air as possible. Now, in a supermarket environment, that's counter to what we've been doing, where we're really trying to limit the amount of fresh air that we bring in, because there's an energy penalty associated with bringing in fresh air, especially in the northeastern part of the country or the south, where you have really hot, humid climates. But bringing in fresh air and diluting the air with fresh air is a really good strategy for COVID. There are a few other strategies that we employ, one being obviously filtration. So if you can, at one point, New York State was saying we'll allow you to open if you install HEPA filters. Well, we all know that that's easier said than done. You can't just take an existing MERV 9 filter or MERV 8 filter and put in a MERV 17 filter and hope everything will work well. So MERV filters do work well. They do filter out COVID, but you can't just retrofit MERV filters in, obviously. But where possible, I think for new specification, we should be looking at tighter filters, better filtration. The other thing is bipolar ionization or needle point bipolar ionization. If you create ions in the airstream, those ions have two effects on COVID. One is to kill COVID, an ion being a charged particle. They will kill COVID. And the other thing that they do is ions, positive and negative ions. If you remember your high school science, these particles will join together. Opposites attract and they join together. So where you've got this very small COVID particle, when it becomes charged, they join together and they are much easier to filter out. So, you can use, just looking at some figures here, but you can have, say, a MERV 10 filter that can be 89% efficient with bipolar ionization. So it is a good strategy. The other thing is to employ the use of UV lighting. Is an excellent method of killing COVID, a proven fact. But it comes with its complications as well. Putting UV lighting into the airstream is difficult. Firstly, those lamps have a life of about a year. So they need to be accessible. You've got to get them in and out. We all know that regular UV has a detrimental effect on human skin, on human eyes. So we need some sort of methodology of getting them out safely, automatic shut-off, once people try to access them, or some sort of sight glass as well that we can ensure that the lamps are functional. So it comes with its complications, and they're not 100% effective. I will also mention that there's other UV that are not detrimental to humans. It's called FAR, F-A-R UV, which is a part of the spectrum that does not have a detrimental effect on humans. And so using FAR UV, you can use it in a regular room. It doesn't have to be turned off when people enter the room. And that's a really good strategy that can be employed as well. The other thing I would say in a supermarket, COVID may be gone. Hopefully COVID's gone in some time in our future. But these methods also destroy mold and the viruses and the mold that has a detrimental effect on food. So not only are we protecting people by doing this and improving the interior environment, but you're also extending the life of the food, which becomes really critical in a supermarket environment. So that's a very brief overview.
That was great stuff, Allan. So Jen, more and more retailers are adopting sustainability initiatives and trying to lessen their environmental impact. So could you sort of go over these low GWP refrigerants and natural refrigerants, sort of give us an overview?
Sure. Quick history lesson I think most of us probably know is in the 80s, we found out that the refrigerants being used were depleting the ozone. And so then through those efforts, such as the Montreal Protocol in 87, we had to move away from conventional refrigerants that we'd used for the previous century. In the US, the EPA created boundaries and phase-out requirements that are still followed today. And recently, we found out that the refrigerants that replaced those have found to be greenhouse gases contributors, which add into climate change. So now we have another migration away from those, which is leading some more natural refrigerants, as you alluded to, on a global scale through things like the Kigali Amendment and the Paris Agreement. And now in the US, through recent legislation, we're trying to reduce the HFCs. In fact, there was an HFC phase out included in the December 2020 COVID relief bill. Then there are states like California that have already taken even more drastic steps to transition to more environmentally friendly refrigerants. Currently, any new systems have to meet the more stringent regulations along with existing system retrofits under certain conditions. So one goal is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by the year 2030. So one way you can do this is change some of your existing sites to CO2 systems as they reach their end of life. The EPA also recently reduced that acceptable refrigerant leak rate for commercial refrigeration systems from 35% down to 20% on an annual basis. A recent study is showing that that average annual leak rate is well above the threshold. And current refrigerants are on the order anywhere, from 4,000 times more harmful than some of the natural refrigerants like CO2, propane, and ammonia. So if you think about that, it's hundreds of pounds of refrigerant in every refrigeration system in the US. You multiply that times the number of systems per site, times the number of sites, that's a lot of leakage happening. It's also worth mentioning those leaky systems have poorer performance, they consume more energy. And so even if you can offset the energy consumption of the systems themselves, there's still this potential of leaking the harmful substances to the atmosphere. So right now there are interim refrigerants called HFOs that are slightly flammable, but when you mix them with a little bit of traditional HFC refrigerants, they're almost drop-in replacements. So if your goal is to meet regulatory compliance, these refrigerations can be dropped into existing systems without major equipment upgrades. These HFO blends are still above the more stringent GWP thresholds that certain parties want to see. And so due to that, we're definitely seeing trends way up for using natural refrigerants like carbon dioxide, propane, and ammonia. You also have the positive on those natural refrigerants that they are natural and then virtually unlimited in supply. There are some, the natural refrigerants do come with some other life safety precautions due to operating at higher pressures and flammability. So we're working with industry partners to make sure that codes and standards are, keeping up with that demand as we move towards environmentally friendly regulations, both to meet sustainability goals from corporations and to meet the latest regulations.
Great, Jen. So staying with that theme, Glenn, what are, with existing stores, what are retailers doing to, with technology to help reduce leak rates?
Well, certainly I think handheld leak detection devices have improved over the last 5 to 10 years. Definitely, and these devices and the associated training that people get on how to use those devices have helped identify where the leaks are occurring, especially with these new blends of refrigerants. And I think that has vastly improved the ability to identify leaks and address leaks in stores. And a renewed focus on the training of how to properly use those, and technicians are training each other, and maintenance companies and service companies are training their technicians on how to properly find leaks. I think that's an important step that we've taken in the industry. Additionally, the industry is finding a lot of different ways to identify or identifying parallel racks with leaking components by monitoring the operation of the system. So by monitoring different operation points within the rack system through the EMS or through controls or a supervisory system, over time, you can find trends in superheat values or receiver levels, for example, that can signify that you have a leak somewhere in the system. And those trends over time can help you be proactive or help end users be proactive about addressing those leaks. So knowing where your leaks are, being able to spot the leaks is important, but having an enterprise level view of where those leaks are occurring helps the end user, the operator, the maintenance company find the leaks, address the leaks before they become catastrophic. I don't know if it really rises to the level of AI, but using automation that includes some level of data acquisition and data analysis functionality to compare the key operating parameters over time, that can help you identify leaking stores, leaking systems with little or no involvement from the store operator. They find out about it as it's happening, and they don't have to actively, there's no problem in the store when they find out that they have a leak. Now people are finding out they have leaks because they have temperature issues. We're talking about being more proactive through technology and being able to have a wider visibility into what's leaking in your entire enterprise of stores, not one specific system that has a temperature issue. So that's very important. But another important factor is associated with that is the record keeping and tracking. It is very important for an operator to know what systems have systemic leaks, before they can take an enterprise level action to address those leaks. So knowing what you have in all of your stores, what stores are leaking, where they're leaking, what components are leaking in those stores will help you develop better designs and give better direction to your maintenance and service companies. And I think all of those actions are being improved through technology. So, and then after all of that, really, once you have your arms around it, that makes it easier to quantify what the value is to the business associated with reducing those leaks. And when you understand what that value is to the business, then you can get budgets and projects assigned to address those issues. So I think those are the most important things that are happening in our industry that are very exciting in terms of leak reduction. I think as the other roundtable speakers talked about, there's leak rates that are above where they really could be. And I think technology and training are the two ways that we're get to address those leaks.
So Allan, overnight it seemed during the pandemic, when I pulled into the parking lot of my local store, all of a sudden there was new painted lines and it was all about grocery pickup. I mean, is that becoming a trend for new design? Is that just now a norm for that?
Mark, so it looks like that is the trend of the future, certainly. And, you know, stores in general, the design of stores, the layout of stores has changed a lot. And we've seen them wane and change as COVID has come and gone. So people were very reluctant in the beginning to actually go into their supermarket and shop. We were using all kinds of shopping services, etc. But one way was to use what they term click and collect. You'd order online or you'd order via the phone and you'd go to the store and pick it up. So this involved it involved from the outset redoing a parking lot area, maybe putting new sensors and automation into the parking lot area. It certainly involved increased refrigeration. You know, one of the things that happened during COVID is that we found that there was tremendous shortages, not only toilet paper, but there were shortages of lots of frozen food. Tremendous shortage of frozen food. You'd walk down the frozen aisle and there was nothing there. So at the moment, we're seeing a huge growth in large refrigerated warehouse distribution centers. And the store itself has more refrigeration in different areas. So now, because we have these click and collect, there are refrigerated products that have to be stored around the front of the store, which never used to happen. So not only do we have, say, the frozen food aisle and an ice cream aisle, but now there's frozen food out in the front. So when doing the refrigeration design, I think we have to rethink the way we were doing it. We're running longer piping, maybe looking again at distributed systems, which are now more applicable because you've got refrigeration all over the place. But definitely increased refrigeration, changes in design, and it went beyond refrigeration. I mean, if you look at even bulk area, the bulk areas have disappeared, although I'm seeing them starting to come back now. But with the resurgence of COVID, I don't know, they're probably going to be gone again. So one thing this is teaching all of us, I think, is to be flexible. We need flexibility because, you know, interestingly enough, this whole discussion is really around sustainability. And I think the thing that we've all learned is how little control we really have over nature. You know, we're learning that really nature is in control and we need to make accommodations accordingly. So I think flexibility is absolutely key in these designs, which we've always known. I'm sure my other panelists, you know, as we design supermarkets, we know with the latest pre-opening remodel, we better have enough equipment there, enough refrigeration power to accommodate any change that's coming up. But this has taught us a really important lesson. And I think the last thing I will just add is that I want to just go back again to sustainability because, you know, it went out of fashion for a little while, but from what I'm seeing, it is center focus once again. Sustainability and how can we improve things? How can we minimize the carbon footprint? All of our clients are now setting goals to be carbon neutral by dates that are approaching really fast. They're coming up really, really fast. And not just companies that have bases in Europe, but American-based companies are absolutely pursuing sustainability. So I think that's a key focus we all need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's great. Acuity Brands, which is our parent company, we are officially carbon neutral. So that was pretty exciting stuff. So from pickup to delivery, Jen, what's the trend with delivery, and can you touch on micro fulfillment?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. You know, similar to what Allan just said, consumer shopping habits have changed over the last several years, and we absolutely saw that COVID accelerated that. Both on the pickup side, as he mentioned, and then on the delivery side. A lot of that, you know, is attributed, the recent pickup is to that pandemic panic buying that happened. But we saw online grocery spending surge 133% in 2020. A recent study found that, you know, the growth rate of online grocery retail is going to make up over 20% of all grocery sales by 2025. That's a more than 60% increase compared to pre-pandemic projections, and grocery delivery is a big part of that. So regardless of whether you're going to buy online and pick up in store, or have it taken out to your car, or you're having it delivered, our customers still expect that fresh product. Cold storage warehouses and those micro fulfillment centers have to be efficient to move the perishable product quickly, and then meet those same expectations of a speedy delivery. So on our side, we've seen, you know, that led to more regionally located, smaller fulfillment centers. You've still got the large refrigerated distribution centers and non-refrigerated distribution centers that are being built, but then we're seeing a lot of our customers putting in those smaller micro fulfillment centers closer to the consumer, kind of that last mile delivery hub system. So it's in a lot of urban areas where a lot of the customers, maybe suburban areas. It kind of depends for each customer we work with, you know, where a lot of their clients are. We've seen micro fulfillment centers typically between 3,000 feet and 10,000 square feet. So they're definitely a smaller footprint. Sometimes they're co-located with existing stores. So if you've got a large supermarket and you're not using all of the space now, you've got less people in the store, it lets you convert part of that space to just strictly be used for that fulfillment center to save on real estate. We've also seen them as the standalone facilities. They're helping support automated fulfillment for grocery delivery sometimes, or the curbside pickup. And then they're really just wanting to take, I mentioned this earlier, take the speed of localized in-store pickup and combine it with the efficiency of a large automated warehouse to substantially reduce that distance between an ordered product and a consumer. It makes the last mile delivery cheaper and quicker. We're definitely seeing the sustainability trend that Allan mentioned on the fulfillment and distribution center side. Everyone's got sustainability goals, whether it's energy reduction, you know, being the net carbon zero. You know, they're really looking at the big picture. Consumers care about that. The customer cares about that. And so, you know, we're seeing that up and down the supply chain on our end.
Great, Jen. And Glenn, supermarkets have been sort of slow to adopt open standards, really relying on the current EMS for supermarket refrigeration to really have the program for them. Are you seeing a trend away from closed proprietary systems?
Although the EMS providers do have some capabilities to provide that interoperability between the different control, monitoring, data acquisition platforms, you know, historically, they really haven't been totally open. And I think that was mainly due to the fact that most HVAC and refrigeration designs, for the most part, were the same. And large end users really needed consistency in their designs and their controls platform, so that way they could train contractors on how to use them. They could verify that they had the operation as they wanted across their whole platform. And to do that, consistency was important. Consistency didn't lead itself to innovation and doing different things and trying to connect a bunch of different devices together. So the need wasn't as great, and the technology wasn't there really to support it. So really, okay, based on all of that, that has now changed, right? So we have much better technology, and now operators are looking for designs on new remodel stores that really minimize refrigerant charge while maintaining their operational energy efficiency that they've developed over time. And to do that, they got to use more complex refrigeration systems, or certainly different than what they've been doing before. And those have demands for additional options for operational control that didn't exist before. So additionally, there are also operators and maintenance activities require visibility. They require alarming functions, trending on smart valves and different small devices deployed throughout the refrigeration system, be it natural or synthetic refrigerant that improve the efficiency and operation of the system. They want to see what those devices are doing and how they're doing it. And that device may not be manufactured by a control company, or it may be a brand new device that they haven't seen before. And so it's hard for them to develop that quickly. So the trend is moving towards more open profiles. And I really think that's because people or end users are really looking to try and accomplish more. And to do that, it typically involves taking advantage of today's faster and frankly better data communication networks and the computing power that we now have. And all that points towards using more open standard EMS or control platforms to accomplish what operators are specifying, right? What they want to see. And not to mention to being able to interact with a store EMS from anywhere, to be able to share information across your entire platform or with people that are outside of your organization without jumping through a bunch of hoops and providing a bunch of controls on top of it to restrict permissions. It's much easier to do that with an open protocol where you have a customized human-machine interface involved, where you can develop enterprise-wide dashboards, information systems like that. Those systems can be tied to your compliance information, your energy information, your asset tracking information can all be tied to these control systems down the road or immediately if it is an open protocol or open standard type of a communication platform rather than something that's more proprietary. So really, I think it's the advent of more technology, the need for more complex solutions, and to get those complex solutions, you need greater visibility and greater action between different devices. And that all calls for the need of open standards to have those devices, or to allow those devices to quickly and easily communicate back and forth.
Thanks, Glenn. And thanks, Allan. Thanks, Jen, for taking the time today to join us for this roundtable. And anybody out there want to reach out to these guys, feel free to come through Distech Controls and we'll get you hooked up with these wonderful people. So thanks again and have a great day.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.